everybody. Welcome to Our Watch. Glad to have you join us for this episode. We got a lot we're going to talk about, and to do that, I've got with me my co-host for today, the political mastermind, Matthew Dobler. How are you, Matthew?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Pastor Tim. Great to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here. We've got a lot to talk about. We have an article that came out in the Press Enterprise, and this article is entitled, "Why Conservative Christians Want to Take Over Southwest Riverside County School Boards." And this is written by a man named Jeff Horseman. And I want to say right up front, I think Jeff did a good job with this article. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would agree. I thought it was a pretty fair and balanced article, so I was happy to see that.
Yeah, I was too. And so we're going to kind of go through and pick this article apart. But like I said right up front, I think Jeff did a great job. Jeff, if you end up watching this, we really do think you did a good job on the article. But we're going to pick it apart just to start going through and just go, okay, what was said here? We'll kind of look at both sides of it and comment on the article itself. So let me just go ahead and get started in this. It says it was draft night in Marietta, but the picks weren't athletes. And so that was kind of the whole feel that we were going for, is like this NFL draft pick. And that was something that was definitely conveyed very strong that night. But he says right up here, instead, 412 Church Temecula Valley on March 2nd hosted an endorsement draft of conservative Christians who plan to run against school board members in Lake Elsinore, Menifee, Marietta, and Temecula this November. I want to make sure that we clarify right up front that this was not a 412 Church Temecula Valley event. It happened to be held at 412 Church Temecula Valley, but this was an Our Watch with Tim Thompson event. So there's definitely two separate organizations there, two entirely different 501c3s, and we're going to even talk here in a moment about the Inland Empire Family PAC, which is yet again another organization. So there's a few different organizations at play here, and we have to make sure that there is a distinction there, that 412 Church did not host this. It was actually Our Watch with Tim Thompson.
Yeah, I think that's important to note, and I think it's important to note that the Political Action Committee that has been set up is supporting these candidates. It's not the church, it's not Our Watch, but it is a political arm that's allowed to raise and spend money on behalf of candidates.
Right, and what kind of organization is it, just for the audience, in case they don't know what these
It's a general purpose committee set up with the FPPC, the Fair Political Practices Commission, and there's many of these up and down the state, primarily to support or oppose a candidate, and the Inland Empire Family PAC has been set up to support school board candidates in Southwest Riverside County. Yeah,
and it's going to have a massive effect.
Absolutely.
On the Inland Empire. We're excited about that.
We're going to train. We've recruited candidates. There was a vetting process that happened, interviews. So we went out and looked for candidates that wanted to run, that were tired of what school boards are putting forward. So we went out and recruited candidates, as you know, and then our goal is to train them so that to make them effective and good candidates in the art of campaigning, and then support them monetarily throughout the election cycle.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, we're going to have huge success come November. I think the left is scared.
Absolutely.
And I think there may even be some people on the right that are scared. We'll see. But it says that the kickoff rally, which featured a hype video set to the NFL on Fox theme music, was the opening salvo of the new offensive in Southwest Riverside County's culture wars, where past battles include the removal of a nude woman's portrait in the city-run Old Town Temecula Theater and protests against a proposal to build a mosque in Temecula. I remember those incidents, wasn't a part of those incidents, but I do remember that took place. The article goes on to say that it's part of a national trend that's turned public schools into political battlefields over COVID-19 mandates, LGBTQ acceptance, and what children should learn about race. I want to pause there for a moment, because it says that this is part of a national trend. There is no doubt there is a national trend right now. We look, and I've been saying this for a while. I've been saying it since the Virginia elections. If the Virginia elections taught us anything, it is that the issue of parental rights is the issue that's going to win elections come November. What do you think?
It's paramount in this season's election. We saw it last November in Virginia, where you had one candidate who thought that parents should not be involved in their children's education, and parents went crazy. Parents were really concerned about that, and that's really what led to Governor Youngkin's victory, and I think that's going to be paramount out here. Parents
Right.
are awake; they're paying attention to what school boards are doing and the curriculum and the policies they're implementing, and they're not happy and they're concerned and they're coming out in numbers. And even the ones that aren't coming to school board meetings and speaking, they're concerned and they're posting on social media. They're talking to their other parents, and there's a wave that's going through this nation, and we're going to see it in November.
Right. You know, people are saying, well, there's this national trend, and we have to make sure we understand we didn't create this trend. We didn't create the need for this trend. The Democrats created it. We have to understand that it's their failed policies, and it's their continual attack on the traditional family unit. And let's face it, as diverse of a nation as we are on every spectrum of diversity, we are very diverse. But the fact is, the majority of America is made up of traditional families. Moms, dads, brothers, sisters, and most of them are still church going, and this is America.
Right. We usually talk about in politics what appeals to the soccer mom. And right now, soccer moms care about the curriculum that their kids are being taught. And they
Right.
and that's due to COVID. They didn't realize what was being taught to their kids because for a number of reasons, but it was COVID that really kind of spread this around where people are now paying attention, and that's the issue of the day, and I think it's going to be an issue for a long time.
Oh, I do too. You know, these issues here that they're bringing up, they're definitely issues that are the ones that are important to me. I know they're important to you. They're important to the entire PAC. They're important to every mom that we talk to. Is race,
Right.
the LGBT stuff, and parental rights when it comes to these mandates.
Yeah.
What are we going to accept putting into our children's bodies?
Absolutely.
You know, or covering our children with. These are things that parents want to make the decision on. So front and center here it goes on front and center in the campaign to shake up local school boards is 412 Pastor Tim Thompson and the recently formed Inland Empire Family PAC. And they quote me as saying, systematically, they have been removing us out of our children's lives, taking over control, and trying to replace parents with the state. Thompson, whose church has about 1,000 adult members, said at the rally. I did say that, and I do believe that they are systematically removing parents from their children's lives. And I say this because I've watched it. I've watched the public schools change terminology in various situations. When they refer to parents, they don't even call them parents. Right. They call them barriers.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to a child experiencing sexual pleasure. I hate even saying that. A child experiencing sexual pleasure. Children aren't supposed to be sexual. Right. It is still, in the state of California, it is still against the law for children, minors, to engage in sex. It's against the law.
Yeah.
And here we are talking about that, and they refer to us as parents as barriers. That's just one example to me that I've watched as they are trying to disconnect children from their parents, replace the parent with the state.
Well,
the state's the one that wants you to be enjoying life.
All these things that kids can do without their parents knowing about it. And I think that's something else that parents are done with and they're fed up with, right? So all the things that schools you can go to a counselor and they can help you do something and not tell your parent. That's just unacceptable.
Right. So the article goes on, critics argue that what Thompson and his allies really want is a theocracy that marginalizes non-Christians in the LGBTQ community and ignores racism's role in U.S. history. Targeted school board members said that they must represent a diverse community and follow the law. Now, I agree partially with what they're saying. I agree where they say that that school board members must represent a diverse community and follow the law. I agree. I agree that they need to represent the diverse community. But when we look at it in a constitutional republic, which is what we live in, the elected officials are supposed to represent the majority of the people. It is the majority that elects them. So they need to represent the people that elected them.
Yeah.
And it's that simple.
Right.
So, and that's the beauty of living in a constitutional republic is if you feel like you're not being represented, then elect people that will represent you.
Absolutely.
And this is where people don't feel like they're being represented right now.
It comes back to the voter. I think they are realizing that the people representing them don't actually represent them, and they're tired of that. So they're going to school board meetings, getting involved, and they're like, wait a minute, who are you? And you don't represent. And that's why people need to get involved. Christians need to get involved. Conservatives need to get involved in the voting process and take a stand. And I think that's what you're seeing.
Right. Yeah, I've been trying to tell the school boards this for a long time is your job is to represent me
Right.
to the state. And every time we go there, they tell us, well, the state said. I can't tell me how many times I've heard school board members say, the state said, the state mandated. Look, stop representing the state to me.
We'll get to that in a minute with
Yeah.
one of the school board members that said, hey, we're just following the law, and it's just not true.
Right. Yeah, you're supposed to represent me.
Right.
Yeah. So this woman, Julie Geary, says here that she said it's extremely offensive because public schools are for every child, said Julie Geary, a member of the progressive group Temecula Unity and a Val Verde Unified School District teacher. I don't understand what she's even getting at when she says that it's for every child. I understand it is for every child. Let's just remember what they are.
Right.
Children.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got to remember that. The parent is the one who's responsible for them. At the rally, Thompson, who at times spoke from across adorned podium, said, I've been saying that the government-ran school system is Satan's playground. We need to change what's happening there. It's funny, the things that people note that I spoke from a cross-adorned podium. Of course I did.
Yeah.
I'm a pastor.
Yeah, exactly. It's not shocking.
Yeah, it's not shocking. Kind of a weird thing to note, but yeah, I have a cross.
Yes.
I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
So when this nation was founded, the church was the public square. All roads led to the church, he said. Everyone got together at church to discuss the things that were happening in their community and to find out what their pastor had to say about those issues. We're taking back the public square. Yeah, that is a quote from me, and I think that is something we should be doing. I think we've waited too long to do it, but it's never too late so long as there's breath in our lungs.
I think we've got to continue to get Christians involved in this process, whether it's the school board process. I'm a political consultant, so my job is to get people elected, and we need candidates to be sharing their message with Christians, but we need to be motivating Christians to go out to vote and give them a reason to vote. And so talking about the issues, inviting elected officials in to have that conversation, that is where the public square should be happening, and it has changed in recent years.
Yeah. Article goes on, says the push to put conservatives on school boards crests a wave of anger over policies enacted to stop COVID-19's spread, especially California's now rescinded student mask requirement. I don't know that it's just that. And the reason I say that is I was very active prior to COVID, and I know you've been very active for a long time. I've been very active trying to engage people in this because it's not just the COVID policies. During this whole COVID time, one of the things there's always silver lining. It's been bad. There's no doubt. I'm not saying COVID's good at all, but if there is anything good that came out of it, I think one of them is that parents were at home and saw what their kids were being taught, saw that they were being told to judge one another based on the color of their skin instead of the content of their character. Like we were all raised to know this is what we were told to do. Yeah. Don't judge somebody based on their skin. And then now we're telling the kids in school, oh, if you've got this color skin, you're a group that's been marginalized, and you're a group that is owed something. And if your color is this color, well, you're a problem, and you need to admit that you're a problem. And parents are not good with that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think them being at home with their kids and seeing what their kids are taught is really kind of what's changed this narrative now. You have been at it for years. I've been at it for years, and we're trying to communicate a message. But families, men, women, mothers, fathers have a lot going on in their lives, and this wasn't a central theme, or this wasn't paramount, and now it is.
Right. It says locally and nationwide, the mandate backlash fueled heated confrontations at public meetings between COVID-skeptical parents and school board members. School boards were often the only outlet for people to publicly vent their frustration, said John Rogers, a UCLA education professor. I don't like that this is labeling these parents as COVID-skeptical parents. Right. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I noticed that too. COVID skeptical. I know a lot of people that believe COVID is real, but also don't believe that they need to get the vaccine. And so I don't know what he meant by COVID skeptical, but it sounds like people are saying COVID is not real, and so you don't need a vaccine. I think the issues are two separate things completely, and these are parents that are concerned about a vaccine and want to make a decision for themselves and their kids personally, not let a school board decide that. So I thought it was an interesting comment. I'm not sure that I agree or even know what COVID skeptical parents are. And what that means.
Yeah, I mean, I've been at a lot of these school boards and the meetings, and I could tell you this: that were there a couple that were COVID skeptical? Sure, but I think most people at these school board meetings have common sense. Most of them understand we're dealing with the real virus. Nobody's skeptical and saying, "Oh, well, we don't know that this exists." No, we know it exists. Yeah. I don't think that's that. So I just don't think it's the right term. I think it's just we're taking a look at statistics, taking a look at common sense approach to how to deal with it, and everything we're seeing is non-common sense. There's no common sense to the approach,
right.
And that's what we've been saying. I don't think it's COVID skepticism at all.
Yeah, parents have common sense, and they want to make the decision that's best for their families, and so being skeptical is not the right word, I think.
Yeah. He puts a quote here in the article from a conservative leader, Ralph Reed, and he said this all the way back in 1996. He says, I would rather have 1,000 school board members than one president and no school board members.
I'm a political consultant. Like I said, I get people elected, and I believe with every fiber of my body that the really important decisions that affect our daily lives, affect our kids' lives, are happening at the local levels, school board, city council. And so I agree with Dr. Reed that I think that you need to know who your city council people are, your school board members are, your water board members, because those are really the people that are affecting your everyday life. And people get very excited about the president and making sure they're electing the person that they want at the top of the ticket. But I encourage voters and Christians to look at who their school board members are, look at who their city council members are, because that is where the real change happens. That's where the real effect on your daily life happens. And so
Right.
I really agree with Dr. Reed.
Yeah, I do too. Conservative pressure on school boards has ebbed and flowed for decades, Rogers said. In Orange County, conservatives in the 1960s fought against sex education, and in recent years they pressured school boards not to adopt academic standards known as Common Core, he said. Following George Floyd's murder and Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, a broader effort has emerged, fueled in part by national conservative groups, to challenge local school boards that try to address racial diversity, equity, and inclusion, Rogers said. School districts, more than any time in recent history, became lightning rods for political activism, he said. Go ahead.
I think he gives too much credit here to conservative organizations. I think the credit goes and belongs with parents. It belongs with the people that are now tired and they're fired up and they're getting involved. And I don't think there's just one organization or two organizations that came along and said, "Hey, let's." The left does that. The left does that. It's driven by organizations that make it look like there are a lot of people. But this is organic. This is grassroots. Mm-hmm. These people are coming from their homes, taking time out in the evening to go to school board meetings, taking time to go and meet with a group of other parents. It isn't this nationally organized thing that a couple large organizations are kind of fueling. This is a grassroots movement.
Yeah. This is American parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In November, Republican Glenn Youngkin scored an upset in Virginia's governor race on a platform of supporting parents' rights and opposing school mask mandates and critical race theory. That's what we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. Thompson, referring to me, draws inspiration from Youngkin's win in a blue state, saying parental rights is the issue that's going to win elections. Absolutely. It absolutely is what's going to win elections. Southwest Riverside County could be fertile ground for a conservative school board takeover, while California and Riverside County as a whole have a more Democratic than GOP voters. What do you say to that?
Well, I want to take it back one step.
Yeah.
Parental rights is the issue that's going to win the election. And as we were going out and looking for candidates to run, or candidates were coming up and saying, "Hey, I'd be interested in running for office," parental rights was the theme among everybody we talked to. That's the issue that I care about. And I think it's right. I think that is the issue that's going to win the day. It's the issue that's going to win the election, and that's what these candidates that are running, that are challenging school board members across Southwest Riverside County. That's what they're running on, and that's what they care about, and that's what they're talking about. It's not about any other issue. That the parental rights issue is kind of that umbrella. Like, hey, all these things come underneath that, and the rights need to go back to the parents.
Right.
I think Riverside County is fertile ground for conservatives. I don't know if I want to call it a board takeover, but we do have to replace school board members to make the change that conservatives want, that parents want. Riverside County was the largest county to vote for the recall of Governor Gavin Newsom. Republicans hold a slight registration advantage in Southwest Riverside County, and I think that'll be helpful. But you got to remember, school board seats are nonpartisan, and I see people on both sides of the aisle that are concerned about what's happening. So Riverside County has traditionally been a pretty conservative county, especially Southwest Riverside County. But I think across the board, you're seeing parents that are pretty upset with what's happening at their school boards.
Yeah, he brings up a slate of candidates. He says, that said, conservative candidate slates don't always succeed. In 2018, 3 conservative Christian pastors who ran as a team for the Corona City Council came up short. I know what race he's referring to. I know the pastors involved in that. I think they gave a valiant effort. But, that's true, that these candidate slates don't always succeed.
And I don't know that there's no candidate slates that are running in Southwest Riverside County. I think every school board candidate is running their own campaign. They have their own message, their own voice. We've supported them from the PAC perspective because they align with our values, and they're running on that parental rights campaign issue. But there's no slate here. I think that's something to really drill down on and note, that we've encouraged candidates to run their own campaign. They're not doing this because we have told them they have to. They want to run, and they want to get involved, and they're going to do exactly that. And they know what the role of a school board member is. And so we have really good candidates that are educated, that are aware of the issues, and know what to do on day one.
Right. Let's see. So he goes on to say that conservative Christians once controlled a majority of the seats on the Chino Valley Unified School District Board and waded into fights over transgender students using bathrooms and students participating in sports based on their gender identity rather than the sex they were assigned at birth. When the board went beyond starting meetings with the invocation prayer to mid-meeting prayers, Bible discussions for up to 12 minutes, and urging meeting attendees to find Jesus, it was sued by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with the organization. I wasn't familiar exactly with this instance, these Chino Valley School Board members. But it's interesting that he brings this up, because the candidates that we're talking with, the candidates that are out there running, aren't concerned about praying at the beginning of the issue. I mean, it comes back to fundamental curriculum issues that are being pushed and supported by elected members of a body. And so I think it's interesting that he says a Bible discussion for 12 minutes at a meeting. That's not what our candidates are talking about. Our candidates are talking about the issues, and from maybe a Christian perspective, a conservative perspective, but more so a parent's perspective.
Right.
And so I think it's interesting that he brings attention to that.
Yeah. He talks about the board's balance of power shifting. They're out. I assume this is still in the context of Chino, that it shifted in 2018 election, with church members now in the minority. They're still there, and in November proposed restricting transgender students' access to the bathrooms and locker rooms based on gender listed in their student records in violation of state law. Thompson, again referring to me, who said his group is focusing first on its own backyard, is active on social media, including YouTube. His Our Watch online videos have featured interviews with Riverside County leaders such as Sheriff Chad Bianco, District Attorney Mike Hestron, and Supervisor Jeff Hewitt. Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia spoke at 412 Church after her visit to Riverside last summer with fellow conservative firebrand and Florida GOP Congress member Matt Gaetz. Yeah, we did have Marjorie Taylor Greene out at the church. I was blessed to have her. I think she's an awesome woman. I love her fire. I love her willingness to say what needs to be said. And I think it's just a shame that she came to our state and we basically kicked her out. And nobody wanted to welcome her in. And she's a fellow believer. She's a sister in Christ. We welcomed her with wide open arms, and she had a lot of good things to say.
I think the Republican Party is and ought to be the big tent where we welcome everyone, and so she's conservative, and we have some folks that are a little more moderate, but truly I think the Republican Party is aimed at being a big tent party, and so I think all are welcome.
Yeah. They say that I tried working with school board members and flew to Sacramento to speak with lawmakers about my concerns, but I said I only found finger pointing. So let me explain that. So the finger pointing that is being referred to there is I often get told, Pastor Tim, why don't you just try to work with the existing school boards? Why don't you try to work with them? Well, you seem hell bent on just replacing them, getting rid of them, and you haven't even tried to work with who's there. And what I say to that is nonsense. Look at history. Look at what I've done. Even way before COVID, we created a documentary film of what we did. They can go to our watch and they can go and see the film. It's called Sex Ed California Sex Ed or something like that on our website. Go to the videos tab and it's right there. You can see it. This is a 30-minute documentary film about what we've tried to do and the bridges we tried to build. And essentially what happens is they just the school board says, this isn't our fault. This is what the state, again, representing the state to us. The state said that this is what we have to do. So I fly up to the state. I fly up to Sacramento and I tell them, hey, I'm not good with this. You know what they tell me? That's a local issue. You got to go back and talk to your school board. They're the ones with, there's a whole thing called local control. Okay, so I fly back and they say, oh, no. We can't do anything. And they're back and forth. Do you know how many times I went back and forth up to Sacramento and back to it's ridiculous. They keep, it's this, and nobody wants to take any responsibility. And I did this for a long time before I said, you know what, I'm done. They just don't want to represent me to the state. Right. They don't want to represent the vast majority of families in our community. So we need to put somebody in there that will. And that's where he quotes me here. He says, it become abundantly clear we had to replace the school boards. And that's absolutely true. That's where we're at right now. Thompson denied wanting to install a theocracy. School boards, he said, are supposed to reflect the community's values and represent the people to the government, not the other way around. And now they're going to quote me saying, we want what's best for our community, and we believe there's more of us than there are of the other side. Referring to me, who grew up in Marietta. I did. I grew up here. I moved out here in '86, and I've loved this community. I still love this community, and I think the Temecula Valley has a lot to offer for families, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah, I grew up here too. I grew up in Lake Elsinore, and I love my community, and I care about. I think the issues that are being taught and the issues that kids are facing in school are drastically different than when I was there. And I'm in my 30s. I'm not that old, and it's shocking how quickly things have changed. And so I applaud what you're doing. I applaud what these candidates are doing, and I think there is change on the horizon.
Yeah, I agree. Says here in the article, Caitlin Jones, who plans to run for Temecula Valley Unified School District Board seat, was among the endorsed candidates interviewed at the rally. She said, here I stand on the word of God, and she also added that she will run, quote, to keep education what it should be, education, not indoctrination.
Yeah, I love that quote. I think she's a phenomenal candidate with a lot of energy running in Temecula. And that's what it should be. Education, it should be education. It shouldn't be indoctrination. It shouldn't be one person's personal agenda and them sharing it. And I think that's what we have to get back to. And like I said earlier, these candidates that are running, understand the issues. They understand what it means to be a school board member, and they understand what the education system should be doing. So I'm excited for candidates like Caitlin.
Yeah, me too. Says here, Thompson also interviewed Joseph Komrosky, who plans to seek a Temecula Valley seat, school board seat, to, quote, fight for the parents and the kids. Now, I think it's important to note it's not just Joseph Komrosky, it is Dr. Joseph Komrosky. This is a man who teaches critical thinking at a local university, and he's an amazing candidate.
Yeah. Very bright.
Yeah,
very
teaching
bright
critical thinking.
Yep.
What a concept.
Yeah.
Teach people how to think for themselves.
Right.
Yeah. Komrosky later added, when teachers at Temecula can tell kids if you're a boy and you feel like dressing like a girl, if you're a girl, you can dress like a boy. I saw an instance of that with my own eyes in our community, and I don't want my son to be affected by it. And here's the fact. It will affect his son.
Yep.
These things affect other people. And I make no mistake. I'm not here to say that the transgender community, oh, you're so bad and stuff. I feel I actually have some empathy towards them. I really truly do. If somebody's truly suffering from gender dysphoria, I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
So this isn't a question of me saying, "Oh, you're terrible and we're good." It's not that. But the fact is, most people on this planet understand that there are two genders. Most people understand boys should be boys, girls should be girls, and if somebody's truly suffering, then hey, we need to help that person. But you don't help that person by feeding into the delusion that they're living in. This is the same thing. I often make this comparison is, somebody's suffering from anorexia. They look at themselves, they perceive themselves to be overweight. You don't love them by saying, you know what, you're right. You need to go on a jog and don't eat anything. Like, no, this person legitimately needs steak and potatoes.
Yeah.
That's the loving thing, is not to feed into their delusion. The loving thing is to say, I know that that's how you perceive yourself, but it's not reality. And so let me love you enough to share the truth with you. And the truth might offend you, but I love you too much to lie to you.
Yeah.
And we're living in a time where the culture is trying to tell us, just lie to them.
Right.
Tell this man that he is a woman. Well, that's a lie. And it's going to affect the kids in our community. It's going to affect the kids on school campuses. Why is a man going into the women's restroom? This affects children. And we need, they all talk about safe spaces. We need to create, the school should be a safe place.
Absolutely.
Where the boys can go into boys' restrooms and the girls go into girls' restrooms. That I would never want my daughter to be fearful of
Absolutely.
a man walking in. All right, let's see. Courtney Cooper, a nurse who plans to run for the Marietta Valley Unified School District Board, said her middle school age children have been subjected to critical race theory and LGBTQ influence, and I'm tired of it, she said. I'm not against anyone in their sexual preference, Cooper said. This is America. You are free to do what you want. However, it goes against my values and beliefs as a Christian. On its website, the Inland Empire Family PAC lists transgenderism encouraged and forced LGBTQ plus acceptance under the category "the problem in schools." I agree with what Courtney Cooper says here. I'm of the same mindset. I'm not against anybody who's in the LGBT community, but one thing that's for sure is children, again, are not supposed to be having sex. Period. It's against the law. Why is it that we have adult people encouraging kids to display their sexuality? That is, to me, there's a pedophilia spirit behind that. It is not something grown men should be talking to children about, unless that grown person is that child's parent.
Absolutely. And Courtney has kids in the school system, and she's seeing that firsthand. And I think that's what's motivated her to run. And that's what you're seeing across the board with candidates, is they are seeing it firsthand, and they want to make a change. And so I applaud Courtney for her quote and her effort running for school board.
Right. Speaking of seeing it firsthand, there's another one running in same district as Courtney. Nick Pardue is running, and he's a teacher in the public school.
Not same
city.
Yeah, same school board.
Yeah, same school board, same city,
different district.
Different. Yeah, so he works for a different district, but he's running in the same city as her. And he's a school teacher. He knows. He sees firsthand what's going on. He sees the revisionist history that's going on. He sees how they're cutting parents out of their kids' lives. So this isn't like something theoretical for him. This is something very, very practical.
Absolutely.
He sees it on a daily.
I'm really excited about Nick Pardue. He wasn't quoted in this article, but I think he's going to be a phenomenal school board member when he gets elected, because he understands education. He's a teacher. He's been in the classroom. He's dealt with administrators. He's dealt with school board members, and he's dealt with other teachers. And so I think he's really going to be an effective school board member for parents across Marietta.
Yeah, he will be a leader on that board
Absolutely.
when he gets on it, for sure. Let's see. Conservatives, as part of a broader narrative filled with hate, are spreading disinformation about LGBTQ people to turn out their base, said Tony Wong. I don't know if I said that last name right, but I believe I did. Tony Wong, executive director of the LGBTQ civil rights group, Equality California. So spreading misinformation. I don't know what this person's referring to. But again, people can go and watch our documentary film. We've brought out I mean, we did a FOIA demand. We got all of the curriculum. We got all of the information directly from the school district, and it is legitimate information, correct, accurate, no misinformation there. All of it's gone through by attorneys, and everything is completely above board, exactly what's going on. So if there is somebody spreading misinformation about the LGBTQ people, I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I don't. I think that's a tool of folks who disagree, right? Or hey, this what you're saying is misinformation. What you're saying is wrong. Well, show us what is wrong. Have a conversation. Come to the table. But they won't do that. It is easy to point fingers and say, hey, there's wrong information out there.
Right. He goes on to say that they're using the so-called parental rights movement to demagogue the most vulnerable in our community. It's definitely his perspective, but it's not reality. Thompson and PAC-backed candidates also blasted critical race theory, a term for graduate-level course of study that's used by conservatives to attack a range of K-12 instruction about race. The doctrine teaches white children to feel ashamed and that people should be judged by their color, they said. I stand by that. I agree. I do believe that that's what's happening. Yeah. Critical race theory is being taught. Now, I'll agree with many of the school board members that are saying, that's not in our curriculum. I get it. I get it's not in your curriculum, but it's being taught.
Absolutely.
Whether it's in the curriculum or not. And you, as a school board member, shouldn't try to sweep it under the rug and go, well, it's not in our curriculum.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's being taught in your school district, and you're a school board member. And if you're for that, then just say, yeah, I'm for it. I know what they're teaching. I'm good with it. Or say, I know they're teaching it. We need to put a stop to it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is what I don't understand why the school board members won't do that. Because in private, they will. Oh, yeah, in private, they'll say, I've had a few of them tell me, well, I agree. We shouldn't be teaching that.
You talk to some school board members, and they say, I don't believe it's being taught. They either support it and don't want to say anything, or they're oblivious to what is being taught in the classroom.
Right.
They're not spending time in the classroom with teachers.
Right. Let's see. Yeah, white children should be ashamed, and people should be judged by the color of their skin. That's according to what is being taught. So they quote me here saying, we need to teach history as it is. Slavery does not exist anymore in our state. It is against the law. Talking to the kids, we need to talk in terms of that. It's historical. It's not current. This I can't read all of this here, says, make certain groups of people feel like they're oppressed. It's just not true in 2022. Here's the fact. Did racism exist? Yeah. Is it the foundation of our nation? Absolutely not. Any attempt to paint it in that light is it's a false description of our American heritage. Yeah. And it's a tool of Marxism to try to divide our nation. And here we are in 2022. You doesn't matter the color of your skin. You can do whatever you can become rich. Yeah. You can become poor. There's a bunch of poor white people and a bunch of rich white people. There's a bunch of poor black people, a bunch of rich black people.
Right.
The color of our skin is irrelevant in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your color is. It's based on how hard you work and that's what it should be, right? It should be the content of your character and working hard to provide for your family, to get a job, to do those things, and it shouldn't be about the color of your skin. But the left likes to make it about that.
Right. They say here, Thompson and his allies want to silence any talk in schools about racism, said Corey Jackson, Riverside NAACP Political Action Chair and Riverside County Board of Education Trustee. Well, Corey Jackson is wrong. I don't want to silence any talk of racism. I just want it to be spoken of rightly. What did it exist? Yeah. Sure. Was there slavery here? Oh, sure, absolutely. Was it the foundation of our nation? No, it was not. Stop saying that we are systemically racist in America. Right. We are not.
Right.
And that's all I'm saying. So I don't want to silence any talk. I just want truth to be told so that way people can learn real, accurate history. And here's the fact. If you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the truth hurts, and the truth is that racism is the foundation of this country, and it continues to operate in our community and in our various systems of government, added Jackson, a black Democratic candidate for the Inland Assembly seat. So Jackson's saying that the truth is that racism is the foundation of our country.
That's jaw dropping. But my first thought is I need to go find out who's running against him for that assembly seat and help him.
Yeah.
Because that he is out of touch with our values, out of touch with Riverside County voters, and so I think I need to go help whoever's running against Mr. Jackson.
And clearly does not know history.
Right.
Clearly. Teaching about racism's role in U.S. history isn't intended to shame white children, he said, adding that it's meant to make sure they're aware of how the world operates and affects others. So we're just saying this is just how the world operates. Yeah. It's just racist.
Right.
Unbelievable.
As far and like you said, he doesn't know history, and he doesn't know the world we live in. He lives in a parallel universe.
Right. Established in September, the Inland Empire Family PAC raised almost $11,000 last year and had about $3,300 in the bank as of December 31st. Records show. PAC chairperson Andrews told rally goers that PAC strictly vetted endorsed candidates. We did strictly vetted them. We took them through an incredible process of making sure that these were good candidates. And I got to tell you, we have some amazing candidates.
Yep. I'm really excited about each one of them. I think they know the issues, they know what it is to be a school board member, and they're willing to work hard. They're willing to go door to door and share their message and hear concerns from voters and parents in their district. So I'm excited for what this election season is going to bring for them.
Me too. All right, well, that's the article. Matthew, I want to thank you for helping me pick this apart. Yeah. And I just want to tell our audience this. So it said we had $11,000 raised. We want to raise a whole lot more. We've got an incredible event coming up on April 22nd right here in Murrieta. We would love to invite you out to this. We're going to have the sheriff of Riverside County, Chad Bianco, just a rock star of a sheriff. He's a true cowboy. Love to have you come out. We also have Katie Hopkins is going to be speaking at that. She is a British journalist, and she's incredibly funny, incredibly conservative, and she's going to be helping to MC our evening that night, and she'll be speaking as well. And then I will be speaking at that event. Our goal that night, we want to raise $250,000. We are going to be as effective as we can, and that means we need your help. So you can go to the IEFamilyPAC.org website, and you can sign up to either sponsor a table. We have $10,000 sponsorships, $5,000 sponsorships. The tickets individually are $125, so maybe you can't sponsor a table for $10,000, but you can buy a $125 ticket. We'd love to have you come out for that event. Food will be served, wine will be served. It's going to be a good night. So we just want to invite you to come out and be a part of this movement. God is on the move. He's allowing us to be a part of it, and we're inviting you in on that as well. So hopefully we'll see you April 22nd. Other than that, we will see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson. God bless you.